Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to talk about gun violence. So just this past weekend, we've lost lives and people have been injured due to the threat of or due to gun violence. And this is something that is really important. But today, what I want to do is highlight the voices of our youth. Because oftentimes I feel like their voices are stifled or silenced and their views are not seen as important. But as a state representative to some very amazing, smart students, and because I know that Georgia is full of very smart students who know what is important to them, I wanted to bring them here today to allow them to speak to you about their experiences and how they feel about gun violence as they walk through the halls of their schools every day. So first, I'm going to introduce Carter. Carter is a Parkview High School student. Following Carter, we will have another Parkview High School student, Caleb, and then we will have some students that are part of the group Students Demand Action, followed by Voice Man from March for Our Lives. So thank you.
As a student, the looming threat of gun violence hangs over my head every day. Going to school is something that students do 5 out of the 7 days of the week, and it troubles me deeply knowing that one day I might see my friends for the last time. School shootings aren't the only thing that threatens children. Motor vehicle accidents are the leading cause of death among adolescents. Why is this important? Because since 1999, adolescent vehicle deaths have decreased from 10 out of every 100,000 children to 5.21 out of every 1,000 children. This significant decrease in deaths is the result of rigorous testing, alterations, and laws passed in an effort to make vehicles safer. After all, vehicles are a part of our everyday lives, so it only makes sense that they're safe. Why is it then that the frequency of firearm-related incidents in schools have been increasing about 30% every 5 years since 1990? School, the place where our future of our country is cultivated, where students should feel welcome, comfortable, safe, has become a battlefield. Yet the problem is serious. Firearms are the second leading cause of death among adolescents, only falling short of motor vehicle accidents. Why? Why is such an enormous problem in our society being ignored? It is not some frivolous, insignificant thing that requires no attention. The will of hundreds of mothers and empty, silent classrooms will testify. It's not a fabricated story fading in words. Why? Why are we letting this issue plague our schools? Control is not the solution. Control breeds opposition. Safety is the answer. Responsibility. Do not take away firearms, but make gun owners responsible for them. Hold them accountable to keep their firearms safe and unavailable to those who would use it to do bad things. Establish that a gun owner is qualified to invoke the Second Amendment, not if they're capable of doing so. Hold a gun owner subject to the consequences if the firearm is discharged irresponsibly, despite who pulled the trigger. Regardless of political orientation, age, or ethnicity, firearm safety is something that affects everyone. Students are demanding a change in the way that guns are handled, not by taking away guns, but by finally demanding that gun owners take responsibility for the safekeeping of their firearms.
Thank you, Carter. Today I stand before you as a student, as a teenager, but most importantly, as a human being. Today in America, 310 people were shot. This is every single day. Over the course of a year, over 110,000 people are shot in America. This is a problem that demands a solution. Over the past few years, gun violence has bled into the halls of our schools. The main reason for this can be found by simply looking at how a student gets access to a firearm. Over 1.7 million children live in households with unlocked and loaded guns. As we know, this is costing lives. The reckless and irresponsible storage of guns is directly associated with an increase in suicide and homicide. As a student, I don't want to get shot by anyone. Students across this country are noticing and experiencing this. School shootings have become commonplace. School shooter drills are now routine from elementary to high school. Students across this country are fearful for their very lives because there is always a chance that their school will be shot up. As a teenager, I don't want to get shot by anyone. It sickens me that teenagers across this country are capable of committing a mass shooting. This is not only an accessibility issue, but also a mental health issue. In order for anybody to commit such a heinous act, such as a mass shooting, a person needs two things: the means and a motive. This motive is only propelled by a mental health crisis that is plaguing the youth of our nation. But as a human being, I still don't want to get shot by anyone. There are things we can do about this. Responsible gun ownership is not a radical idea. Mental health resources are not a radical idea. Common sense gun safety is not a radical idea. This is a complex issue that requires comprehensive solutions. 92% of gun owners and 86% of Republicans support universal background checks. Common sense gun safety measures shouldn't be partisan. What we are advocating here for is an understanding of the facts. The fact is that in states with increased gun availability, death rates from gunshots for children were higher than in states with less availability. The fact is that more than 75% of first and second graders know where their parents keep their firearms, with 36% who handle them without their parents' knowledge. And the fact is that there have been about 100 mass shootings in the United States, with one just yesterday in Milwaukee, yet no major gun safety legislation has passed Congress in over a quarter of a century. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the bipartisan background checks bill passing the House of Representatives. This type of legislation is possible, but more than that is required. Universal background checks are a no-brainer. We need more than just that, though, to comprehensively solve this problem. We need to keep gun owners responsible for the proper safekeeping of their firearms. We need to institute waiting periods for anyone who wants to buy a firearm. Nobody should be in a rush to buy a gun. But what we need most extends beyond just legislation. What we need most is a culture of responsible gun ownership. This means respecting people's security by not openly carrying in public spaces, schools, and churches. This means locking your guns up in a safe, not your unlocked nightstand drawer or under your pillow. Irresponsible gun ownership kills. Whether you're a toddler or a teenager or an adult, gun violence affects all of us. Today, I stand before you as a student, as a teenager, but most importantly, as a human being. It comes to value our lives and bring an end to gun violence.
Thank you so much for that. Earlier today, moms and students from all across Georgia gathered together and marched around the Capitol advocating for gun-sense laws that protect our communities. We are in a time where social movements are exploding everywhere. Whether you are an advocate for domestic abuse prevention, mental health, racial justice, immigration, gun violence prevention is where every issue collides. It is a human issue that impacts every single American. Specifically in Georgia, 57% of all gun deaths are suicides, mental health issue. 79% of intimate partner gun homicide victims were women, and within that, Black women were 2 times as likely to get shot by their intimate partner than white women. Domestic violence issue. In Georgia, firearms are the second leading cause of youth death. And this is an everybody issue because how are youth supposed to be our future, but we are dying? The intersectionality of gun violence is scary, but it is powerful because of the unity that it could bring. 1,459 people on average die in Georgia by guns every year. It's the highest in the entire country. This means at least one person is killed every 6 hours. The issue is access. There is no universal background checks, bulk firearm purchase restrictions, waiting periods, handgun design safety standards. Gun violence, death are not just accidents, and we cannot let these lives be dwindled down to just collateral damage. The system is broken. With stricter gun laws, little Montreal Dunn would have been here instead of accidentally shooting himself in the head with his parents' gun. With prohibiting domestic abusers from possessing firearms would have saved Marvette Burgess from her husband killing her after a fight. How many more of these stories do we have to hear? How many more times until it's your mom, until it's your child? We need to continue advocating and creating gun-sense laws. We need to use our voices victims of gun violence are marginalized groups. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for Black youth in America. And in Georgia, I am 6 times more likely to die by gun violence than another 19-year-old girl that is white. I refuse to be a statistic, but on August 12, 2019, the failed system almost made me one. I am a sophomore political science major, economics minor at Clark Atlanta University. And on the night before our first day of class this year, as I sat in my freshly decorated dorm room, I decided not to go out. And a few seconds later, I heard shots outside my window, and chaos inside and outside of my dorm followed suit. I soon found out that 2 individuals decided to make my worst nightmare into my reality. Hearing the screams and cries of my peers begging for their lives is a sound I will never forget. Seeing purses, shoes, blood, and wallets on the ground in front of our library on the way to class the next morning is a sight my community will never forget. 4 students were shot that night, and they all thankfully survived. But not everybody gets to say that. But despite the bad, I stand here in front of you with like-minded individuals on Black History Month in the birthplace of the Civil Rights Movement filled with gratitude. Gratitude for being alive. And this movement did not start and won't end today in the Capitol. We need to take this knowledge and spread it to our peers and our loved ones. Take the research and share the statistics and talk to people about the importance of voting. Most importantly, take your resources and share with communities that do not have access to this information. Be the voice for the voiceless. Because mass shootings only make up less than 1% of gun violence issues, but are more than 90% of the media coverage. Think of those who aren't being thought of. Thank you.
Domestic violence is a very traumatizing reality for multiple individuals across America. In addition to the constant fear of an intimate partner or an individual close to the victim, the danger of a domestic violence situation increases in risk by 500% when there is a firearm present. In a survey conducted by the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 10% of callers informed that his or her abuser had fired a gun during an argument. Moreover, a majority of callers believed that their abusers had the ability to inflict harm on them to the point of death. It is also important to note that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 20 men who are victims of domestic violence have been killed by his or her partner. This issue of firearms being the preferred method of homicide has become horrifyingly more disturbing when, over the past 25 years, the use of a firearm to perform an act of homicide is more than all other weapons combined. Furthermore, in the period of winter 2009 to the summer of 2014, it was shown that close to 60% of mass shootings, the shooter killed an intimate partner or a family member, with around 18% of the shooters possessing a domestic violence charge. As shown, domestic violence situations have become increasingly more terrifying and deadly. It should not be that women in the U.S. are 21 times more likely to be killed than any other developed country in this world.
My name is Royce Mann, and I'm with March for Our Lives, Georgia. First, I want to say thank you to Representative Clark. She has been a strong ally in the fight against gun violence. Last year, we worked with her to introduce a resolution in the House to create a study committee on gun violence and mental health. Unfortunately, that is one of the dozens of pieces of gun violence prevention legislation that has not been given a hearing or a vote. Although many different solutions have been the legislature here in Georgia, as well as lawmakers in DC, are failing to take action. Another one of the policies that has been introduced is HB 384, which is a bill that would require safe storage of firearms here in Georgia. In California, civil liability is imposed on the parent or guardian of a minor for damages that result if the minor discharges their firearm. Also in New Jersey, they've implemented the Keep Safe program, which provides an instant rebate after a gun locking device has been purchased along with the firearm. Pennsylvania law states that locks must accompany dealer sales, and Massachusetts requires that all firearms be stored with locking devices in place to prevent accidental shootings. Research shows that such laws aren't passed in vain. In states with laws designed to limit children's access to firearms, accidental firearm deaths reduced by 23%. In 2016, at least 43 shootings had occurred where a person aged 17 or under had accidentally injured or killed someone by discharging a firearm. In 2020, there have been 26 such shootings, over half as many shootings as of 2016 statistics in less than 2 months' time. Although there is a promising number of states with gun storage laws of some sort, Georgia is not one of them. Despite the state recognizing that 3 out of 4 suicide deaths involve a firearm. We are not trying to restrict anyone from owning or carrying a firearm. We are merely just trying to prevent innocent lives from getting harmed or taken when it can be prevented simply by keeping your gun secured in safe storage. This is one of the most avoidable issues of gun violence, yet our lawmakers have chosen to do nothing. We're not asking that they do everything, we're just asking that they do something.
I want to thank you for taking the time to just listen. Hear their voices. They are talking about something that is very important to them and should be important to us all. Gun violence affects everyone. And I am so glad that these students had the time and energy and just the drive and motivation to speak to this issue. And I can hope that the legislature here in Georgia, the legislature in Washington, D.C., and leaders across the nation hear them when they say, this is important.